contact the special prosecutor, Angela Corey, on his own today by telephone. And the lawyer said that they do not think the prosecutor would speak to him under any conditions, because that would certainly make the case much more complicated. That, they say, was the last straw. That's what they were referring to when they said that he was acting on his own. They also said that he is not in the state of Florida, but he has been in touch with them by phone. They also said that they have not ever spoken to him face to face during the course of this entire process because it's not been safe and logistically possible. Now we know that part of that is that he apparently has been out of state for some time. But they maintain, despite this erratic behavior, despite everything else we've heard, they still maintain that they believe he acted in self-defense that night. The question is, where does this all go from here now? They also left out the possibility of welcoming him back if, in fact, he reaches out to them. But again, they say they haven't talked to him since Sunday. Just a very, very strange and baffling development in all this, Chris.
Who is managing the legal defense fund we've read about for Zimmerman?
Well, there was some confusion about the website that's been set up over the past couple of days. The lawyers say that they believe it is a real website that is being run by George Zimmerman. Apparently his father has played a role in this as well in trying to help this get set up. But the lawyer said that that is legitimate. We don't know who's contributing to it, how much, if any, money they've raised. But again, there was a very convoluted process in how that all came to be. We were all expecting today that the special prosecutor might announce a decision. There might be an arrest. There might be Zimmerman turning himself in, but suddenly we're all in front of the county courthouse, and the lawyers are saying they're taking themselves out of this case. Just very unpredictable, strange developments.
On that other point, on the prosecutor from Brevard County, who was there was a wonderful takeout piece on her today that really gave a good background on her. She's a tough law and order prosecutor. The question, I guess, is that what do you make of the fact she's chosen not to impanel a grand jury?
That's not terribly unexpected. There had been signs that she was going to do that. The Martin family, I spoke to them earlier today, they're actually very pleased with that decision because they were very concerned about a closed-door process, which is what a grand jury would have been, always is in the state. They wanted to be present for all the proceedings. They want to see all this done in public, very transparent and out in the open, so they're very pleased by that. The one thing that no grand jury means is that Zimmerman will not be charged with premeditated murder, because in this state you need a grand jury to do that. So that's one thing that we're certain of.
So murder in cold blood is
saying that's a very courageous decision for. It's a very courageous decision.
I read that. Is that a good objective assessment? The fact that she chose not to go to a grand jury, but to decide that she's going to make the call herself whether to indict.
Well, that's what people are saying, and for many, the scenario, a very plausible, possible scenario would be to hand this to a grand jury. The grand jury decides not to indict, and then you have the prosecutor who has to come forward and explain to the public why this didn't happen. Some people say that prosecutors use grand juries for cover when they have a very complicated case and it gives them an out. So many people are saying that for her to take this on her own and to say that I will make the decision is very courageous. And again, the Martin family is very pleased by that because it adds transparency, it adds public accountability, if you will, to this entire process.
Right now, and thanks for that report from Florida. Let me go to Mike Isikoff, who's here with me. Michael, anything from you, given this information that the lawyers have dropped out? He's now on his own, apparently.
Zimmerman's gone rogue, basically.
Well, it may be, but just to be totally fair here, the pressure on this guy, if he picks up a newspaper, a magazine, or watches any program.
And he's not totally incommunicado, I should point out. In fact, I just got off the phone with one of his friends who's been out in the complex, who's been defending him, Frank Taffy, who said he heard from Zimmerman yesterday. They talked about the website. They talked about a
Could it be he doesn't think much of his lawyers? Let's just turn this around. Could it be he doesn't think much of these two lawyers?
Well, you'd think then you'd get another lawyer. I mean, rather than just contact the prosecutor.
Have you been able to assess whether there's been a bunch of an offer out there on the part of maybe on the political right? I don't want to narrow it to that. People who feel more sympathetic to him that have been offering themselves up for legal help. You hearing much of that?
Well, Frank Taffy told me that there had been a report that there had been a $10,000 donation to the defense fund from somebody in Texas. He said that's not true. I thought one of the things
that'll get you a day or two from a lawyer, won't it?
It depends on who the lawyer is. It might be a little bit longer, or a couple of minutes. But the other thing is that he did. One of the things that was interesting is from the lawyers, they said that they learned that he had called Sean Hannity and had a conversation with Hannity, and apparently neither Hannity nor Zimmerman will tell them what they discussed. So that does raise
that's called on background. But let's go to the
questions.
Well, let's listen a bit more of the Zimmerman's lawyers here, what they had to say today.
We learned that he had called Sean Hannity of Fox News directly not through us. And we believe, I can't confirm this, we believe that he spoke directly with Sean off the record, and he's not even willing to tell us what our client told him.
You know what's difficult about this, covering a case like this from an anchor desk or anywhere, covering it even from an investigative reporter, is how little we know about what actually happened. Because there's only one live witness so far, the man who was involved with the shooting. Right. And the victim is dead. Which is the case in most, street shootings, of course. But we have no way of really getting around it. The attorney, the prosecutor in this case, who's very respected according to the piece of the Times today, right?
Right, absolutely.
Be very careful to say nothing.
Yeah, and there's so much that we haven't seen that you'd need to form a judgment about what happened here, and certainly a prosecutorial judgment. The forensics on the shooting itself, the powder burns on the head. Well, it would tell us what was the distance from which the bullet was shot, what was the angle from which the bullet was shot.
And what would that tell you about criminality?
Well, it could tell. It could either support Zimmerman's story or contradict Zimmerman's story. If Zimmerman says,
well, if he was being rushed or something,
Martin was right on top of him.
Right, he's being rushed or not, or else he just shot him.
The autopsy report from Trayvon Martin, the angle, where the bullet resides. The medical reports from that evening on just how serious the injuries were. That's clearly to.
Well, we have
Zimmerman.
The head bleeding, and we have the nose thing. Let me ask you about this. The stress test, because I'm always fascinated with the veracity of lie detectors. Everybody is at the time you're a kid.
Right.
How safe is it to believe in a stress test, a voice test?
Look, I think it's the kind of thing that could, that if presented in court would be challenged by other experts, as these things always are. Yeah. So I don't think we should form any final conclusions based on that.
Of course not. But police believe in them?
But some police believe them. They use them at times, but I don't think that a prosecutorial decision is going to be made based on that. Just one other point about the fact that the lawyers can't contact him. It does raise the question that if the prosecutors do want to either arrest or talk to him, whether they're going to be able to get, how easily they're going to get in touch with him.
We'll find out. I mean, it's all part of the question. It is a very difficult case to find the truth here yet. Anyway, thank you, Mike Isikoff.